Okay, so I am recording this video as sort of a quick snapshot and review of the uploading process following our Skype call where I showed you guys sort of a little more in depth how to do it. So I'm going to do this as a hypothetical and hopefully, this will be sort of a quick reference guide for you guys to come to and watch when you're trying to learn how to upload. Obviously, I'm still available if you have questions, so please feel free to reach out if you need to. So from the Suppliers tab in Coupa, once you open this tab, you're going to click Create to create a new entry for the uploading. The very first entry that you get to is the supplier. So this is going to be your vendor, and you cannot put anyone in here that hasn't been registered in Coupa. So you need to make sure that your vendor is registered before you start this process, because otherwise this is the first step and you won't be able to proceed past this point if your vendor is not registered. So we're going to just choose a random vendor here. Now the contract name is going to be the property abbreviation, space, dash, space, and then the name of the actual contract. So we are going to pretend that this is an entertainment contract. So if it's an entertainment agreement, we're also going to make sure and add the name of the performer. Also feel free to add any additional information in here as far as if it's like a gaming order, you can add, lease or purchase. If it's, if there's like a contract number involved, please feel free to put that in here, like service agreement number, 0-211-867, whatever. So we're just going to make up a name here. So that's the contract name. The contract number is going to be the name of the actual property. It's a little backwards. And then dash, the fiscal year that the request was actually entered, and then the requisition number or the generated number. I sent out that spreadsheet for the contract number generating tracking spreadsheet. So if you need to pull a number from there, obviously please be logging it in there or pull the requisition number. So we'll just, for our purposes, make up a number. So again, contract number is the name of the property, dash fiscal year that the request was entered, and then the requisition number or generated number as it fits. The contract starts date is going to be one of two places. It's either going to be actually stated in the contract, effective as of this date. If there is no language that says when it actually starts, then the start date is going to be the later of the two dates that it was signed. So one of those two places should have that information. The date the contract expires may or may not exist. If it's a set term, then make sure and put the expiration date in here. If it's a contract that auto renews, primarily you see those with like gaming device orders, you can feel free to leave this blank because that's just kind of a rollover auto renew agreement. The owner is the originator, so I'm just going to stick a name in here. But be aware that the owner is the person who's actually originating the contract to the requester. Don't worry about any of this information. Type of contract here is going to be the department. So this is an entertainment contract. Our hypothetical contract that we're putting in here is an entertainment contract. This is not a lease. This information here is extremely important to make sure that you're putting in. It's not a lease. And then brief description of services. This is kind of a snapshot of whatever you want to see when you open this up, instead of having to open the contract and look at what the services are in the contract. This is kind of a brief 1 to 2 sentence entry to kind of show you what the services are basically. So for our purposes, this is an entertainment agreement for performance by Sarah Evans on 11/7/18. Okay, and it can be as simple as that. It doesn't have to be anything extensive. Again, this is a snapshot. The contract terms, two primary things that I enter when I fill in this section is the termination language. and then the governing law. Anything else that you feel is pertinent that you want to put in this box, please feel free. You all are owning this process now, so whatever you want to see in this box, again, it's just a snapshot of the contract. Please feel free to put it in there. You know, anything like auto renews after initial 1-year term, any information like that that you think is pertinent, again, feel free to put it in. So we're just going to say Nevada governing law and then 30-day termination with or without cause. Okay. So again, snapshot. So a couple of you have already uploaded agreements, and something that I was noticing that a lot of you were kind of missing is this minimum spend section here. Make sure and fill this in, because if this is, if you make sure and put in the amount in the minimum spend and not the maximum spend. If you put it in the maximum spend, it will actually prevent you from cutting a PO using this document as a backing document. So make sure you're just kind of filling that in. Also, again, the minimum spend section, not maximum spend. The other area where the spend is going to be important is the initial contract amount and then the current contract amount. Now, where this comes into play, a lot of times these two numbers will be the same, but where this comes into play, where you will have different numbers, is if you have a multi-year agreement. Let's say you have an agreement that's $5,000 per year with a term of 3 years. So obviously the initial contract amount is going to be $5,000, and then the total spend is going to be $15,000. So make sure that you're filling those two sections in appropriately. The next section you're going to worry about is the termination type. Primarily, contracts will be fixed. They will have a set expiration date. If they don't, it's more than likely an auto-renew contract. Perpetual agreements are very rare, and they typically only apply to master agreements, which are routed through the corporate office. So typically you don't have to worry about this perpetual entry here, but please make sure that you are being cognizant of this entry and making sure that it's filled in appropriately. And then obviously date the contract is executed, pretty straightforward. Again, make sure that you're using the later of the two dates for that section. And then typically the GM will be this signature on the contract. Sometimes it won't be, but primarily will be the GM. And then contract status also. Now, if you're putting in an entry where you're using a contract strictly as a backing document to create a PO against, sometimes it will be either closed or expired. Primarily, this selection here is going to be active, but make sure that you are, again, cognizant of this entry and making sure that you're selecting the appropriate, the actual appropriate selection. And then don't worry about any of the rest of this information here. The very next entry that you're going to be concerned with is down here, where you're going to actually attach the executed contract. Don't choose legal agreement. Now, if you do choose this, it's not the end of the world. It's, you know, things aren't going to come crashing down. But what can happen sometimes is if you choose the legal agreement section here and you try and upload the contract to this portion, sometimes it can actually edit the information that you've put in up here. So to avoid that, try and make sure that you're adding the contract here instead of in the legal agreement section. And then you'll drag and drop, and you'll see once it's uploaded that it'll be attached here. You can actually see it. Again, I'm not going to choose an actual one because this is a hypothetical, but again, you'll see it here. It's pretty obvious when you've attached the actual contract. And then you just go ahead and save and publish. And that should be the end of it. A couple of things to be aware of. The supplier, your vendor name here, and the contract number, once you hit that publish button, those two fields cannot be changed. They cannot be edited. So if you accidentally, and this actually just happened to me yesterday, if you accidentally put in the wrong contract number, the wrong requisition number here for your contract number, you will actually have to reach out to eProcurement to have them delete that entry and then redo it with the correct contract number. So just be very careful when you're filling in those sections to make sure that you are doing it appropriately, because you don't want to have to duplicate your work like I had to yesterday. Again, I'm here if you have any questions, and hopefully you will be able to upload after watching this quick overview one more time. Thank you.